Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing oil change on my 2005 Kawasaki Brute Force 650. It's the V-twin. I think they all were. There was either a 650 or a 750 that you could get. I got the 650 here, and it's getting well overdue for an oil change. I don't know, it's actually been a few years since it's had an oil change. It hasn't seen a lot of miles on it until my daughter started riding with me with her Brute Force 300, and so it's time to get done. And last time I did it, it's pretty sure I put in synthetic 10W30. This time around we're actually going to go with proper 4-stroke performance engine, or ATV motor oil that we're going to throw in there. So let's dig into it. Okay, to do this job you need some various things here. You obviously need a drain pan, you need oil. Now the manual here says you need a 10W40 that's API SH or SJ with JSO MA certifications. This is JSO MA2 that I'm using. It's the same stuff that the Brute Force 300 requires. Same oil that I'm actually putting in. It says like it's a 4-liter jug. By the measurement on the side, I have a bit better than 2 liters left, 2.5 liters. It's API SMSL and MA2 JSO T903, whatever. That's what we're gonna go with. The manual here says that you need 1.75 liters with a oil filter change, 1.54 liters without an oil filter change. Really don't know why you'd never change the filter with the oil. Just makes good sense. And then if the motor's right dry, 2.05 liters. So basically we should need about 1.75 liters or 1.85 US quarts. And then you need a filter. I like Fram. I don't like the cheap Frams, but the lowest grade I'd ever go would be the Tough Guards. So I have a Tough Guard here that I've had in the shed for a while. And then Ultra Synthetic. They are actually my preferred filter now. I've watched some comparison videos of oil filters, and the Ultra Synthetic seems to be right up there with a lot of the very well liked filters out there. And it gets rid of the like the paper gasketing and stuff that's with the really crappy Fram filters. I think the Tough Guard also gets rid of the paper filters, but what do you call it, gasket areas, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But Tough Guard's the lowest I would go. I think that's probably what I got on this machine already. Ultra Synthetic is the one I go with. Now you only put the filter on by hand, like hand tight, and Frams have this bit of grip added to it, which is something that I really like with the Frams. So even when my hand's all oily at the end, I can easily crank this on by hand. Now the manual does tell you that for the oil filter, the torque on that is 11 to 15 foot-pounds. I don't know if anybody's ever put a what do you call it, a torque wrench on an oil filter. I guess I never have. It's always as tight as I can get it by hand, and that's it. All my vehicles, everything, that's how I do it. Torque wrench, if you want to get particular with your drain plug, and if you're looking for the torque specs on that, that is 13 to 16 foot-pounds for the drain plug. And then a filter wrench, you may need that to get the old filter off. And then obviously some shop towels. Now I have ran 1030 in this bike pretty much since I've owned it. I haven't owned it from new. They do give you a viscosity grade chart here, right in the manual, for if you're running in various temperature ranges. Now it's not often that we are above 30 Celsius, so that'd be looks like 86 Fahrenheit. So 10W30 is adequate, and it's not often that we're below 10 minus 10 Celsius either, or 14 Fahrenheit, but sometimes we do. But it's so rare that I don't bother changing out the oil for the winter for 5W30. And also is we will hit Chinooks where we'll easily be above 0, and so I'd rather have the the safe operating temperature higher up than lower. But this time around we're going to put in the 10W40 that it asks for, and basically that just runs you from -10 to 40 degrees Celsius according to this chart. But you know, a little thicker oil. We're just hitting into summer here now. As you can see, I'm sweating like crazy. It's hot out today, so having that bit extra temperature protection above 30 is going to help. And outside of that, then you need a basic set of ratchets. In fact, you really only need one specific socket. I haven't crawled underneath the quad yet to find out what size that is, so we'll find that out here in a second. And that is it. So I'm going to crawl underneath here, and we'll get that oil drain bolt pulled and get that oil dropped. Okay, so we're underneath the quad here. We've leveled it out. Everything looks good. I haven't really put a level on it. It just looks pretty close anyways. That's where the camera's looking towards the front of the quad and is underneath the rear swing arm. There's only really one round hole in the skid plate right here, and that is where your drain bolt is. It's right here. There's a rubber stopper right beside it, rubber bumper, whatever, and it is a left-hand thread, so, or a right-hand thread, I forget. You know, it's a standard thread, and so lefty loosey, righty tighty, and whoever put this on last really put it on. Oh, and it is a 17 millimeter by also. But I'm going to have to put a wrench on that because that is ridiculous. Like, holy, I don't know who put that on, but it is on there. So I'm going to have to go grab a wrench for an extension. All right. Oh, went to go get a wrench to extend it, and all of a sudden it breaks free for me. So, not so bad. All right. Guess I just need to eat a couple more Wheaties this morning. And there's the oil drop. And I forgot to bring down a shop towel. Alright, I'm going to set that right there, grab a shop towel. Okay, let's let that finish draining. And while that's doing that, I'm just going to move this pan forward a bit and see if I can get to this filter. Now the filter is pointing towards the front of the quad on the front of the engine. I will grab that right here. Let's grab the camera. Okay, so come out right here. So going in by the front tire, go into the side, and it is right there, that black filter. So this is not a Fram. I'm actually thinking the last time I did an oil change on this thing, I actually probably bought an actual Kawasaki filter. And so that is that there. Let's see if I place this camera on its side, drop it, that works, right? Put it right there, maybe you can see me getting that filter off. Let's see, and let's see if I can do it by hand or not. I can barely get my hand up in there, so I'm going to say I can't. So we're going to see if we can fit my wrench in there. And of course, being a Kawasaki filter, it does not have the what do you call it on it, that bit of grippy rubber stuff that the Fram puts on. So that will also make it a little more difficult to get that off without a wrench. Now if these bugs would stop biting me, it'd be all right. Let's see if I can fit this wrench up in here. I don't know if this is gonna work, if I'm gonna get enough of a bite on such a weird angle or not. And if I can get my other hand in here, my hook, to actually pull that belt tight. Come on. Oh, that's working. Okay. If I could get my hand in there, it would be a bit easier. I'm pretty sure that probably would have come off by hand, but rather than using the wrench. But that's why you have tools handy to do these jobs. Alright. Then as you pull that and break the seal, obviously it's going to leak the oil that's held up in the filter, and it's landing on the skid plate, so it's kind of running all over the place. Okay, I got that most of the way off. I'm just going to kind of let it drain before I finish pulling it right off here. And we'll be right back. Okay, so got the filter all the way off. I cleaned off the seal mating surface there for the filter thread on area. And I gave a little wipe around the threaded area here for the oil drain bolt here. We're obviously still seeping a bit here, so I'm just gonna get that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up top here and set up our filter, get that ready to be put on, and set up the torque wrench to torque that drain bolt. Okay, so we are back up top here. I am going to be putting on the Fram Ultra Synthetic filter. I'll leave that tough guard in case I need like an emergency filter or something. And best thing to do with these is to just put a bit of oil on the rubber gasket. Now this filter mounts sideways, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to pre-fill the filter, because you're just going to end up dumping a bunch of it out as you're putting it on, because it mounts sideways, so it's just going to pour out, right? So I'm not actually filling the filter, but what I'm going to do is just kind of pour a little bit up here so I can get it on my finger, just on the top of the filter here. Let's get you in closer. Right here, bend that down. All right, so I just kind of poured it in the top here, and I'm just going to dip my finger in there and wipe it around the seal. All this does is it helps the seal make a good seal on the mating surface on the motor, but also lubes that seal. So one is you can get it tighter without actually messing up the seal. It'll actually slide smoothly on the mating surface, and it'll also keep that seal from drying out prematurely and cracking and causing a leak. All right, so we got that ready. We already got all our surfaces down there cleaned so that they're ready to accept both the filter and the drain plug. And the other side is I'm going to actually use the torque wrench, being that I had it out for display purposes here, to install the drain plug. Now if if you've been doing this, well, one, I don't know why you're watching my videos. If you already know what you're doing, on top of that is, like, you can just guess if you know what you're doing, right? If you have mechanical knowledge, you can always guess on what you're doing on your torque settings. But I say I had it out. This video is for instructional purposes, so I'm going to do it correctly. All right, so it says in here 13 to 16 foot-pounds, so I'm just going to set this to 15. I'd rather it be on the high end than the low end, So my torque wrench starts at 5, that is 10. Another half turn gets me to 15. All right, and that is foot-pounds, right? Yeah, it's not inch-pounds. All right, so that sets my torque wrench to 15. Get back underneath there and we'll get these parts installed. Okay, now I like to, this is a real pain in the butt, being that the oil lands down on the skid plate and stuff. It's still dripping and it's getting everywhere and has landed on the wood I'm working on top of and stuff. Just kind of a pain in the butt, but whatever. All right, now this bike was cleaned just yesterday after our last ride, but as you know, there's always dust or dirt that you never really get off. And so I like to leave the filter in the box until I'm ready to put it right up in and on. That gives it a little bit of protection just by putting that lid, like the top of the box down over top of the filter. None of that dirt can fall into the filter as I'm getting back underneath the bike and in place to put it in. And then it's on there pretty good, but we can get a better bite up in here, I think. And basically just as tight as I can by hand. Now you can see the benefit of that grip on the Fram filters is I had oil all over that filter because of the it pouring out. That little bit I put in poured out as I moved it up into place, and because of what's on my hand. And yet I was still able to grip that filter very well to get the filter nice and tight. There we go, I squeaked just a wee bit more out of it. That's it. That is the filter. Alright, now, if you can still see from there, maybe you can, hopefully this pans out. I am just cleaning off the drain pan bolt with a rag here. Just get any dirty oil off it, stuff like that. Looks nice and good. The washer's still got lots of life in it, looks like. So we're good there. So you're gonna put this up on in here. Tighten that up. All the way by hand as far as I can. And drop the socket in the oil. Great, good job. That was sticking nicely to that. I guess I turned it just enough to loosen it off. Alright, well, we'll get this clean. At least this socket won't rust for a while. Get the oil off it. Put her on the torque wrench. Remember, the torque wrench is already set to 15 foot-pounds. That would be the right way. Get on there. Okay. And we're just gonna crank it till it breaks, which is nothing, and that's that. We are done down here with the exception of the oil still leaking, dripping. Just gonna have to let her drip. Put the pan in place here, catch some of that, and that is it for down here. All right, now we fill her full of oil and job's done basically. Now we're just at the point of putting oil in the machine, and then we'll fire it up, fill the oil filter by means of the oil pump on the machine, and then recheck it and top it up if it needs it. So on the left hand side of the quad, let me get this tripod opened up first here. Alright, on the left hand side of the quad here is where your oil drain or your oil dipstick is. It is right here. So I'm just gonna set the camera, I don't know, maybe just over here. That, alright. So that's your oil checker, your dipstick. I don't know why words are failing me again today. There's gonna be like some dirty old oil on there still. Let's just give that a nice little wipe off. There's your dipstick. Has a checkered area with a H and a L for high and low markings on it. They're on both sides, and you basically want to be in there somewhere. I always like to be at the high. So here's a nice clean filter. Just gonna shove that in there. Fits in there nicely, and according to the manual it should be about 1.75 liters, or I think that was 1.85 quarts. So we're just gonna dump a fair bit in here. I don't know if you're actually seeing this. Let me tilt this camera up a little bit farther. There you go. Now you can actually see me pouring it in. There's no sight window on this one like there is on the 300. So basically you're going to pour in what you think you need and let it settle for a minute and check it. I would say, because like before your first fire up, it is going to use a bit of oil to fill that filter. Not much, but a little bit. And so you probably want to be as close to the high line as possible prior to firing up the machine for that first time. So, and to check, you don't just push it in and pull it out. You actually have to screw it in. Those threads do take up some space on that dipstick, and so you could be too high, or you could read too lower than what you are, basically is what I'm trying to say. And so far we're not even on the dipstick, so let's keep going. I know I had, I don't know, about 2.5, maybe a little less than 2.5 liters left in this jug, so I should be getting really close because it's feeling fairly empty at this point. But that's only the crummy part, is it takes a bit of time threading it in and out. Make sure that you get an accurate reading. Alright, right now we are a little better than halfway up that dipstick right now, so we're in the realm of it only needs like maybe a short glug to get her topped right up. I'm just gonna give her another check here. Yeah, we're about 3/4 up to the high line, so we'll give her a glug, maybe about that. Give the stick a little bit of a wipe off. Not that it really needs it, because you're only ever going to read higher, but thread her in, pull her out, and we are almost basically at the high line. You know what, I think I'll give her one more glug before I do the fire up. I always like to fill my vehicles right to the full line. There we go. Let's see how that does. Two things. One, especially with something that's going to be like a quad or an off-road vehicle, 4x4, where it's going to be on, you know, off-camber angles quite often. If you're high, then a lot less chance that you're gonna dry sump, right? Where if you're down on the low line, you're on a long climb hill, you may dry sump, you know. So I like to be right on the high line, which is right where it is right now. So that's my biggest thing. And then the other side is if it's on the right on the high line, if it starts using oil, leaking oil, whatever, for some reason, I'm going to be able to see that sooner or easier, right? So if it starts leaking or burning oil, I'm going to be able to see that easier because I'm going to know, oh, it's no longer on the high line. So now at this point, we're going to fire up the machine. We're going to let it run for maybe a minute. It should be more than enough time for that pump to fill that filter up. We're going to check it, make sure that the oil is still between the low and the high, and then we're going to run the bike, bring it right up to temperature, shut it down, let the oil settle for several minutes, and then recheck it and assess whether or not we need to add oil at that time to bring it back up to that high line. Okay, the initial run has been done. That was just to fill the filter. I'm just giving the stick a wipe off, and we're going to check our oil level, see where we're at. Okay, where are we here? Oh, all right, filling the oil or filling the filter. We are down to actually probably a little less than halfway up that checker plate now. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. It's hard to see in real life, or I don't know, with my own eyes. So all right, so we're gonna go and we're gonna glug a little bit more oil in there, and we'll recheck it before we do the final run. Okay, well, either the manual lies or the jug measurements lie, but I put the rest of what's in that jug in there. I don't think that's going to bring us up to the high line at all. It'll still get us within range of safe handling, safe driving, but I'm going to have to go buy some more oil just to do that top up, I think. Well, after putting that oil in, and I guess the oil probably settling out of the top of the motor a bit, we are actually on the high line again. Perfect. So we're going to do the final run in there that the manual says. At this point, you could call the oil change done, but the manual does suggest you get the bike right up to operating temp, shut it down, let it rest for a few minutes to let the oil settle back down into the sump, and then rechecking it. So that's what we're going to do for the purpose of this video. Normally I'd be like, done, I'm going riding, but we'll get this done right for the video. Okay, brought the machine up to operating temps. Basically I didn't wait for the fan to actually kick in for the coolant to be hot, but it's pretty darn hot. Just giving the dipstick a wipe off, and let's see where we're at. Okay, here's the dipstick, and if I can get some sun glare on that, we are right on the high line. I don't know if I'm dripping on my shelter here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera if I get it close enough, but yeah, we're right on the high line. So we're good now. The machine's ready to rip. Two things with this dipstick. One, make sure this O-ring at the top is in good shape and still there. This is in very good shape. I don't think I've ever replaced this O-ring whatsoever, being that it's usually covered in oil anyways. I imagine it doesn't have a tendency to dry out, but that's going to keep water and mud out of your crank. The other is it is plastic. This oil change alone, I almost cross-threaded it, I don't know, 2-3 times. So don't just jam it in there and start spinning it. It does have on two sides, this side right here and this side down here, it's got the threads cut. Why exactly, I don't know, but that's going to increase the possibility of cross-threading that. So keep an eye out for that. Sorry if I'm squinting and making weird faces. I got the sun right in my face here. But watch out for those two things. Other than that, that's an oil change. It's on this machine, it is really no different than doing a vehicle. If you've ever done a vehicle, you can do this machine easy peasy. Just make sure that you got it on a nice level surface to do it. The machines are, because they do have such small sumps, such small cranks on them, they are very sensitive to being on an angle, which could throw out your oil measurements. You know, if you're leaning to the left, particularly with this bike, your measurement will actually look higher than what your oil actually is, because your right side could actually be dry if you're on enough of an angle. Or if you're slanted the other way, so if you're leaning to the right, you could be measuring no oil in the crank when in reality you're full, just that all the oil is on the right side of the crank and this is on the left side of the crank, right? Obviously. And same for tilted front to back, same idea, right? But again, that's a big reason why I always look to get the oil right up to the high. One is the crank largely on these things require basically work off of being splashed over actual pressure. The other side is if you're on those major angles. I ride the mountains. We do some really steep hills, like stuff where you're standing up over the handlebars, keep the front end down, crap like that. And sometimes they can be a long climb, so you could dry sump your motor on those, you know, if you don't have enough oil in there. Even if it does say it's in the acceptable range, that's on level ground. That's not in these crazy in some of the crazy terrain we ride these things in, so just keep that in mind. Other than that, that is it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, hit the like button. It allows other people to get the video recommended to them so that they can find it. And you know, hit the thumbs up, give the video a little bit of a push up in the algorithm. Thank you for watching. Happy riding. Have a good day.